Oh, can I unplug the other phone here?
Nope,
Real quick.
because we're live. Well, why are we laughing? This is a horrible
No,
day.
this is like Black Friday, but it's a Monday.
I don't know what happened.
Are you going to be okay for today? Because this is going to be a tough one because we had France lose, we had Croatia lose, and that means soccer's done for you and I.
Ugh.
And it's unbelievable because Croatia was losing 3-1, comes back, ties the game, almost wins in the regular time, and then literally falls asleep during overtime. Like if you can't get up for overtime, there's a problem. And then don't forget too. Also, we got all these young studs that are sitting on the bench, but we want to consistently play these old timers that you got to get them off the field. It's a young man's game now, man. Young man's game.
A crazy day in the world
Yeah.
of soccer. Crazy.
Mm-hmm.
What else is crazy is that the Habs are in the finals.
Nuts.
No one predicted that at the start of the playoffs. Absolutely nobody predicted that the start of the year.
That is correct.
So they're going to the final first time back in there since 1993 when they won. The last Canadian team to win the Stanley Cup was the Canadiens.
And I hope they win again because I can't stand to see Tampa win.
Either. I hate Tampa.
I hate Tampa. I can't stand watching these Americans think that this is their sport in any way.
Well,
so everybody's
they're
Canadian.
delusional, yeah, everyone's Canadian.
Yeah, but everyone's Canadian. But still, though, it's driving me nuts, and I've had enough of it. So let's go, Carey Price. Let's go, boys. Let's take it home. Let's do it. And plus, my wife's from Montreal. My kids were born in Quebec. So that's my calling. That's my calling card.
Again, people say I don't want the Habs to win, but the only Canadian team I don't want to win is the Oilers.
And see me, it's the Leafs. I don't care. Like
that's right. I forgot about that.
Yeah,
actually, there's a
the
few.
Leafs. Yeah, there's a few. Yeah, because their arrogance is so disgusting. And
the Oilers are going to win one day. They're going to win soon, I think, if they can deal with stuff.
I think in the next 6 years they're going to win. So
I think the window's shorter than that, but
Jesse, when you watch the game now,
I know, but you got to remember, 6 years that all those big contracts are over. Then,
well, I think then right at the end of the contracts, like
I
right
said,
at
they got
the
a 3-year window,
and McDavid's playing for the Leafs. Is that what's going to happen?
And then he'll be playing for the Leafs.
The Leafs, and then Matthews won't wait, and he'll be playing for Phoenix.
Yeah, he'll go to Phoenix.
You heard it all here on the Me and Jesse podcast, Everybody. Tune in. You want to know the trades? You want to know who's going where? We'll tell you who's going where. Okay, get it straight. Yeah.
Well, also, too, football is around the corner. I mean, it's still like 3 months away, but it's around the corner for us, finally.
It is.
It's the most
training
painful
camp.
wait.
Well, they tease us with this training camp. Now there's another training camp coming up in September, or like they do it in like August, September-ish, and then the season starts, and then we're like, oh, there's a preseason this year, and then it's like, here we go. Now there's an extra game this year. Extra game. So we're super stoked about that. If they can make it 18, that would make me like it's 17 games now. But for me personally, I love the number 18 games a year. But we'll see. We'll see moving forward. I like your Seattle. I think your Seattle's going to do real well this year. I'm not going to tough division, but I'm not hating on anybody. I just see certain things because I pay attention to NFL football more than anything else, and I see certain things taking place in Seattle. And I know people are talking about Carroll and maybe it's time for. And I'm like, I'm not so sure about that. I think on the long term of things, I think that his coaching style does make sense still in 2021. So
yeah, it's interesting. He has actually been able to evolve because he is more of the friendly coach.
Yeah, and then they're saying that works some places it doesn't, and I think it works with I think that works with someone like Russell Wilson and those type of players. I think with the young guys, not so much.
The Seattle Kraken announced today that they're live. Yeah. They're going to do their live draft on July 21st. So that'll be live. That's already my number 2 team.
What do you think, though? Who's playing net for them? I already know who's playing net for them.
I think Marc-Andre Fleury plays net.
I do too. Yeah. I do too. Which guarantees them a decent season, right? Like even if he plays horseshit, that's still a decent season. So I think Fleury. I think he's gonna because the Oilers can't have the fortitude to pick him up, right? So they're still banking on this 40-year-old. Smith that they think he's going to bring him to the promised land, and I'm like this that's ridiculous. But the Kraken, might get Fleury. Yeah. And I was like, you know what? That's a great foundation.
Now, they changed it a bit, so they're not going to get as good of a team as Vegas, I think, but they're still going to have a decent team.
They'll be competitive.
I think they'll be all right.
I do too.
And I do love Seattle in general, so I actually hope they do all right, and I hope
how does that work?
Takes off.
How does that work for you now, moving forward? Are you still a Flames fan?
Yeah, but they're my number 2 team.
See, because no one would slight you one bit right now if you said I'm a Seattle fan, because they're an expansion team. So it's not like you're jumping on any bandwagon. You're not like, you know what I'm saying? There's no one can talk shit about, just like me. I'm a Raiders fan, and I was a Raiders fan when they were 4-12. You know what I mean? So I told people.
What are you saying? Switch teams?
Well, I think you legitimately could, and no one would slight you because you're a hardcore Seattle fan, Seahawk fan, and then on top of it, it would only make sense for you to be
Mariners.
And Mariners, yeah. I mean, I couldn't believe it when we first met you, and you knew who Ken Griffin Jr. was. I was like, what? How do you know who he? Because most people in Canada don't even know who he is, right? So I was like, you knew who he was, and I'm like, hey, this would not look bad on your resume, this Seattle team.
Yeah. Well, I don't think I could do it, but I definitely.
No one would slight you. No one would slight you.
I would slight myself.
I don't think it's necessary. I think you need to be a little bit easier on yourself. And I think moving forward, I don't see why you couldn't do it. And no one's going to talk shit about you because you're not a bandwagon jumper. So perfect. You could slide. Yeah. You could slide right in.
Slide right into the Seattle Kraken, which I think is very cool.
And I think the Kraken are going to have a better team than Calgary this year. So
no.
Yeah. Oh yeah. No.
Also going on in F1, which I'm a huge fan of. I haven't missed a race this season. Max Verstappen is rolling. I tell you, that kid's something else. It's crazy actually. It's like having Gretzky and Lemieux play together, or Jordan and LeBron play together. Like
100%.
Lewis Hamilton and Max Verstappen, and Mercedes is actually starting to be like, this is serious.
Because Max is mean. You understand? He's a mean driver. He's not a friendly driver. My guy Hamilton is a little more friendly. Max is not friendly.
Well, Max was in front so far, he didn't even have to be mean to anybody. No, he was so bored up there by himself the whole race.
But he has that in his DNA, and that's very important when you want to be an F1
23
driver.
23 years old, too.
Ugh, he's scary.
He's got a long way to go.
The Red Bull
Hamilton's 35.
Yeah.
If you haven't watched Drive to Survive on Netflix,
it's a
do
must.
it.
Must.
I know, not to say that girls don't like racing, but not a lot do, and specifically wives. But my wife watched it. I know a lot of my other friends, their wives actually watched the show and fell in love with it. Like, correct. Oh, let's watch another one. And it's that well done. So make sure you watch that.
It is.
When we come back, we'll see what happens. This is Me and Jesse Podcast. Thanks for tuning in, everybody. We'll be right back after this short break.
Get ready. It's time for the Me and Jesse Podcast with Mark Pavelich and Jesse Martineau.
Welcome back, everybody, to the Me and Jesse Podcast. I am Mark Pavelich. Across from me from the Grove, the big, sexy Jesse Martineau. And with us in the studio today, everybody, the one and only Alan Jouban. My wife was trying to make me say it the French way. When I said Jouban, so
that's pretty good. That sounds good.
Not bad. I practiced. So how are you today? How are you doing?
I'm doing good, man. Glad to be on with you. I'm at my son's soccer camp right now, so I hope it doesn't get too hectic in the background, but good to be here.
Thanks so much for joining us. It's an honor to have you on the show, of course. From MMA to, maybe modeling first, people don't know that, to MMA to commentating. You've had quite the career already, and you're not very old.
39 now, so I still have I could commentate until I'm dead. Fighting, I kind of hit my peak or my age limit at the fighting. I figured I started to see some of those athletic abilities start to diminish a bit, and the guys I was fighting seemed to get younger and younger at the high levels, and that's why I started to kind of feel it was time to call it quits.
Alan, did you see that? Did you see that though? Like in your mind, was your punching and kicking and your kneeing still in your mind fast? But then when you would watch yourself on tape, would you see yourself just a little bit, like, you know how it is, like when you're a high level violinist, you can tell, like me and Jesse can't tell, but you can tell when you're watching tape of yourself. Like, I know you won your last fight in the UFC, right? So people think, well, why did he stop for? You know, like people, when they knew you were on our show, they're like, why did he stop? He's so competitive all the time. And I was like, hey, you know what? Great. You watch the show and he's going to tell us today, because most people that win their last fight don't stop.
Yeah, and so that's the unfortunate truth, especially in fighting, because what happens in fighting, every fight that we win, we get paid a little bit more, our momentum, our followers gets greater, and it's like, why would I want to stop now? I just got this promotion. And so that's the tough thing in fighting, is knowing when to call it quits, especially when you're finally gaining stuff. And so it's tough for me, coming off of a win, you know, some sponsors, a higher pay scale, et cetera, but I could tell. I won my last fight, but I'll say this. That was the best performance that I could ever get out of myself
and
in a
stop
39-year-old body.
Yeah. I love that.
Well, yeah, that's I knew it, because I had the best camp I could have, and I remember how fatigued I was during that fight, and how, like, you know, all the little subtleties that my coach was calling for, the feints, the angle changes, the head movement, like all those things, to keep all those moving parts functioning at a 100% level. I felt like I was walking a high wire on the Grand Canyon, just to stay in that focus. Yeah, that supreme focus. And so when that fight was done, I was like, okay, that was a healthy Alan Jouban at 39. If I go to my next fight at 40 years old and I have a small injury or not everything goes perfect, it's going to be a rough night. And I go, it's a good time to call it quits and off of a victory.
Did you know that going? Did you know going into that fight though? Did you know that this was going to be it, no matter what?
I had a feeling, and that's another part of it, to be honest. I told my coaches, I said, look, I don't know what's going to happen. If I go in there and get knocked out, maybe I say I'm done, or maybe I say I can't lose like that. So I didn't know what my brain was going to tell me, my emotions. I go, maybe I go in there and I get hurt, and then that would probably be definite nail in the coffin if I have another injury at this point in my career. But if I go and I win and I look like devastating fashion, maybe I go, man, I definitely have another one.
Yeah.
With the way that it did, it was kind of a back and forth fight. It was 5 rounds, somewhat of a war. I looked good, but I took a decent amount of damage to the face, but not injury wise. And you know, as I was licking my wounds over the next couple of days, my eye was completely shut, and I had a fractured nose, and I'm sitting in, you know, like in laying in bed with my wife, and she's looking at me, and she goes, like, I could just see the look in her eyes, and she's like, you've done that, like, we've done that so many times, where, you know, I've had so many fights in my career, let's say 30 or whatever, and half of those was that same thing where I'm in the hospital for 3 hours in the emergency room. They release me. It's 1 a.m. I'm laying in bed in a Vegas hotel room, and I can't see out of one eye. I'm super happy because I won, and I'm playing on my phone, but my wife is like I think
watching. She's watching it. She's watching it, right?
She's watching it. We knew, but I forgot what your question was. I kind of started getting off the topic, but yeah. So when it was done, that camp, I felt that entire camp was like a Rocky movie. It was if this is the last time, leave no stone unturned. And when that camp was done, I go, I can never recreate that, because that's one thing I've learned about fighting is I fought Ben Saunders a couple of years ago, and it was after a 2-year layoff. I had neck surgery, knee surgery, hands, all this stuff. 2 years, I come back and I go, I don't know how my body's going to perform. And it was the first time my son, Cage, has been to a UFC fight.
Wow.
And so I get inside the octagon, and I'm fighting a buddy of mine, Ben, and I'm in Florida, and I'm in the octagon, and I look up, and They were like second level right here across the octagon, and I locked eyes with my oof. I got chills talking about. I locked eyes with my son and my wife.
Wow.
And I felt this adrenaline rush that I've never felt in my entire career. And I felt at this point, I go, I will not lose this fight. There's no like I just felt this feeling, this emotional just splurge inside of me that I've never felt, and it was unstoppable. And so I won that fight. It went great. After the fight, my son came down. I walked with him. It was amazing. And then my next fight in the octagon, my family was there, and I found them when Bruce Buffer's calling my name, and I looked to him, and it was different. It was different. I didn't feel that same emotional rush. Wow. And it dawned on me. I go, you can't recreate something that's real like that. Real emotion. You can't recreate it. It's acting. That's what acting is, right? Yeah. Real emotion happens once.
That's right.
Every time after that's acting. And so I was trying to recreate it, and I go, shit, it didn't give me the same feeling. And so, to my point, I had this amazing camp where every session, I felt like I would almost get teary-eyed because I put my heart and soul into every session. And then when that fight was over, I go, I'm never going to be able to recreate that camp again as if it was my last fight, because I went into this fight thinking it was my last fight. So I kind of knew going into that last fight.
Now, it's interesting because a lot of fighters are usually the last ones to know when it's over. How you talked about that, like we've talked to other people too, that's like, that we talked about people that maybe went too long. And so you going out on top is an actually big thing, I really feel. But what is it in your brain that comes together to say, oh, I need to stop? Was it the family? Like, did you actually have those conversations? Or was it just you deciding at that moment?
It was both. It was conversations with the family, with my wife. And then, there's I was thinking of some analogy, but it's basically like people see me and they go, oh, you still look young. But I'm actually one of the more injured fighters in the UFC.
Wow.
I've their insurance that I remember when the UFC got insurance, whatever that was, like 7, 8, 9, 10 years ago. As soon as that started, I was cashing in on it. I've had 10 surgeries.
But rightfully so. Rightfully so, though, right? And it's not, I don't like that, because fighters say I was cashing in on it, right? But in real sports, if you talk to an NFL guy or you talk to someone in the NHL, they would never say that. And what bothers me about that is because I was in the MMA business before anybody else was. It was UFC and me. That was it. And when I saw that, like, I was paying for people out of my own pocket for fighters when they broke a hand or when they did all this, because no insurance company in the world was going to insure MMA, like an MMA organization for fighters back in the day. You know what I mean? And when I saw the UFC do that, I praised them for doing that. But at the same time, it's weird how MMA fighters think that, like, they're privileged to have that, but but you shouldn't be. You're the one now that you said, like, I know how injured you were. Okay. And I know how injured a lot of guys are. And I know guys that live in our hometown, Edmonton, Canada, that are still injured. You know what I mean? And when I see that, it breaks my heart to see anybody that puts their heart and soul into something and they're walking around half crippled now. Right. So you deserved that. You know what I mean? Yeah. You really did. You deserved to have everything fixed.
Yeah. No, I appreciate that.
Yeah, you do.
It's funny that, I didn't even realize it, that my mentality, that's the way it was set, because I was like, I cashed in. But because in my mind, it was when we got it, like I said, I had, not all of these surgeries were with the UFC, but about 10 surgeries. And I felt like I was always on the phone with the billing department, like, hey, guys, sorry, I'm sending you 10 more bills today, 10 more bills. Yeah. And I was just always sending them bills to pay for. And so it was my body, though. My body was breaking down. I couldn't stay healthy. And then I was slowing down at 39. And then I just knew, like, I tore my ACL for the second time last year. And I go, the ACL is like one of the worst. That's a solid, 9 months. And then most people usually fight about a year after. And at 39, 40, to go through that and then to have that amazing camp that I just spoke about, I go, I don't want to get into camp and something breaks again. And I go, shit, now I have to go through a year of rehab again and then try to find this perfect camp. I go, and the thing about fighting, man, I don't want to make it a sad story, but you guys know how it is. Like, when you lose, you go through your little waves of depression, and your family has this, to see the unhappy dad or whatever. And I won my fight. I was happy. My face was busted up, but I was playing soccer with my son a couple of days later. I go, this is what I want, man. I want my body to still work. I want to be the happy dad. I want to be the happy husband. I don't want to go and torture myself again, and then maybe I lose and they have to deal with me being sad, and maybe I'm injured and I'm on crutches again. Like it for the first time in my life, I wasn't saying I'm ready to die in that cage. I'm ready to go live the rest of my life.
Yeah, interesting.
That's a great revelation. Now you have a new gig, commentating. Yeah. How's the transition been in that? You obviously, everyone knows now, you speak very well. So was that something that you grew up with, or how'd you figure out that skill?
Not at all, man. No. I was the shyest, not shy in person, but never any type of coming up doing anything like that. But it just kind of, you know what it is? It's like when you feel confident about what you're talking about, it projects confidence. And I feel that I know MMA very well. I've just always looked at it from both sides, and I've also been coaching for 10 years. So I also teach it and train it. And so aside from fighting at the highest level and teaching it, I felt like anytime we talk MMA, I'm like, yeah, let's get down into this. Let's get to the nitty gritty. And the UFC approached me a couple of years ago to do the Contenders show, and they had a big audition. And anyway, it came down to a couple of guys like me and Paul Felder and Eve Edwards, and Paul ended up getting it, and Paul's tremendous. And so since then, I've stayed on that short list. Just I've been terrorizing UFC. Like, when am I going to get my shot? When am I going to get my shot? Yeah, and they finally got me at the desk, and I think I get to audition as a color commentator in a couple of weeks over there. So I'm excited about that.
Ooh, let's go. Let's go.
Yeah,
let's go, man. Let's go.
Being a color commentator, not only do you get to narrate the fight for the audience, you get to tell this story of the fight from your mindset, how you see it. And so I love that part about it, because I get to tell people what I'm seeing and how I feel this action is going. But then also, man, like I look at like old fights, and you'll see like Ali versus Frazier, and you'll hear the color commentator. You go, this is history. You're hearing this voice, and this is a piece of history that you get to be a part of. So if you get to narrate, you get to color commentator Poirier McGregor fight. That's a piece of history. That's a huge fight that people are gonna look at for a long time. And you were the one that told that story to the audience. So I love that aspect about it.
Yeah, that's really cool. I love that. That's how you explain it too. And so as color commentator, because actually Mark and I are commentating a fight coming up here soon.
Okay.
And it's funny because people ask me when I owned the MFC for 16 years, the day after, people asked me to do commentating, and I said absolutely not. And then big organizations asked me to do this and that, and I said no, I'm done. I did it for 16 years. I'm finished. And then just recently, this company, because when we started the podcast and all these famous people are on, all of a sudden these boxing promotions are asking me and Jesse to commentate, and I was like, well, I'm not really into commentating, And so just recently we signed a contract to commentate a boxing event that's on Fight TV. And but we thought it was funny, but I have no aspirations to anybody out there that I'm going to be a commentator.
Really? I do.
No, Jesse does. But I prefer to watch you guys, because listen, you're right. Paul Felder's awesome. DC's awesome. When I watch you on TV, you're awesome. And I don't have the ability to tell people they're awesome if they're not. Yeah. So that's my disease. Because
how long's the contract with ESPN now?
Yeah. With me and broadcasting.
Well, the UFC and ESPN.
I don't know. I remember that first fight was a couple years ago, right?
Yeah.
Maybe a 5-year deal or something. But see, the interesting thing with UFC and ESPN is the UFC hires all the desks, or the commentators.
That's
right.
Talent for every fight night. But when it comes to pay-per-view, ESPN takes over, and so it's two different entities doing the hiring. So anytime you see pay-per-view talent up there, that's ESPN's.
Oh, interesting. I didn't know that.
So it's kind of like you're working for two different companies. So you have to kind of I'm in with the UFC, but I'm not in yet with ESPN, and so that's what my hopes are.
Yeah, well, we hope that works out too, because I love the history aspect of that, where you watch that fight and you hear Joe saying something or whatever down the road. Like we want to hear Alan saying something too. Now, Mark, loves this part of your career. So I want to let him jump into it. So Mark, you go ahead with the what you want to talk about.
I think it's super dope that you were signed with Versace, and you did commercial with Gigi Hadid, and I thought wow, first of all, I'm a big Versace fan. Versace Couture, right? My wife is too. It looks like my upstairs, a section of my house looks like Giovanni Versace puked in my house. You know, it's gold.
Gold and black, and
it's so gaudy. It looks awesome. You know what I mean? Like it's crazy. So when I saw that, I was doing my studying, and I was like, wow, that's crazy. Oh, I like that. But what I want to know is how someone from Lafayette, Louisiana, because I know your first love was soccer. Your first love was soccer, and you got hurt. I know that. And then and then you went into you studied martial arts as a kid, which is awesome. I tell every parent, stop spending money on hockey, put your kid in martial arts. And then you went from there, and then you went into the UFC, but you were still you wanted to do modeling, and you've done 7-8 commercials. Like, is that something you're going to continue on with?
I try, but I mean, it's kind of like fighting. I'm older now, right? So, I was so fortunate to get that Versace campaign when I did, because I was still a little bit younger, and I was still kind of like a new face, so to speak, in the UFC. And so the modeling world had never really worked with a fighter. Like when you look at TV these days, and you watch TV and you watch a commercial, and you see a fragrance campaign or just any type of campaign, it's very much celebrity driven now. You see Matthew McConaughey doing a car commercial,
totally,
or some other actor doing a fragrance campaign, and that's really the way it is. But right before all the celebrities kind of took over, they were kind of dabbling in other areas, and so there really hadn't been any that I know of MMA fighters doing a high level of modeling. There was like local stuff and whatnot, and so anyway, my agent, Jason, at Soul Artist Management in New York, saw me, my first UFC fight, got on the phone, found out who I was, called me, and then we started working together. And at the time, I was kind of doing like a little docu-series called the Brahma series. And we used the Brahma series. It was like documenting my fight stuff, like a lot of fighters do. And we sent that to Bruce Weber, who's a very, very famous photographer. Yep. And he's shot polo for like the last 30 years and all this stuff.
That's right.
But anyway, he's a big shot caller in the fashion world. Anyway, so he sent all these docu-series of me fighting, and Jason knew that I kind of had a modeling background, to Bruce Weber, straight to the horse's mouth. And he goes, I want this. I want the next Versace campaign, because he was shooting Versace.
Crazy.
I want it to be like fighter driven. I inspired him.
Wow. And
so he goes, I want this guy, and I want him kissing a beautiful supermodel. And I was like, okay, keep going. And my wife knew it too. My wife was like, I bet you it's gonna be Gigi Hadid. She follows up.
What?
Sure
Really?
Enough, okay, wow. It's gonna be you and Gigi Hadid. You're gonna be like kissing in an elevator and all this crazy like people fighting. And I'm like, okay, let's rock. And then we booked the job and went to New York and shot it. And it was, Versace was such a tremendous opportunity, and financially it helped us buy a home, and it did so many things for our life. But I always attribute it to fighting, because I was a guy at the mall modeling before that, right? And then I moved to LA and I found fighting, and I started fighting, and fighting made me who I was. And then that put me on the map, which Jason, my agent, found me, and that's what the photographers and Versace found me. So the UFC and MMA, martial arts, is what gave me these opportunities in life. So I'll always attribute, the success that I've had in every area to fighting. Because fighting got me these opportunities at the desk, as a color commentator, as a Versace model.
Talk about the entrance into MMA. How old were you? What was it that drew you in initially?
Yeah, I was actually not even that young, to be honest. I was a kid that grew up with a punching bag, but I never had formal training until I moved to LA. And I moved to LA, and I moved in with a guy, and he said he had trained in Thailand. And I was like, oh man, I've always wanted to do that. And around the same time, I met this girl, my wife now, who was Thai. And I was like, oh shit, you're Thai. And I was like, just geeking out on like Thailand. And so I go, yeah, I'm going to go join a Muay Thai gym. Yeah, and it was one of those things. You go join a gym. I had a smoker 3 months later. And literally, I remember saying like 2 months after the smoker, I go, I'm gonna be in the UFC. That's my one goal. Like I'm not looking for belts. I'm not looking for this or that. I'm just only going to the UFC. And after that fight, that was in 2005 or 2006. That was my purpose in life, was to be in the UFC and to put on exciting fights. And so I was just fortunate that, like so many people that don't get to reach their dream for reasons that are not even theirs. They put in the work, but it just doesn't always happen. I was able to do it. So it was a dream come true for me.
What do you think about today's UFC? Like, we talk about the superstars of the sport that kind of exploded it, like Conor, for example. What about the next generation of those guys? Who are the guys that you're looking at? Like, okay, they could not only, take this to the cage, the octagon, but also carry it outside and inspire another generation of viewers.
Yeah. I mean, you're seeing it. Like, obviously, the Conor changed the game, we're seeing so many people that are just smart people now in MMA. Take Dustin Poirier, Conor McGregor. Conor came in and changed the game with personality and business suits and having a sort of dignity about being a fighter, not so much like fanning out. Oh, look, we get a limousine to pick us up. Like,
yeah, totally.
Expect these things.
That's right. That's it. Yeah.
And then you see people dressing differently. And then he became this smart businessman saying, I'm going to go and dabble in other endeavors, and I'm going to get into the liquor sales business, and which made him so much money. And then we see other fighters. We see Dustin Poirier with his hot sauce. He's doing well with it, and so many other fighters now. So I don't have any specific young fighters, but we're just seeing a change in the culture that just only maybe happens every 10, 20 years, which is we fight, and we learn something about it. Like I guess we have more pride in ourselves, because I feel like for a while, we were fanning out. Oh my God,
totally.
I'm on TV. And now it's like, no, man, like we're the same as that NBA guy that's going to walk onto the court wearing this nice suit. We're the same thing. We're on the same level now. And so you're just seeing fighters have more belief and confidence in themselves. And then those other things that are so crucial, being marketable, knowing how to speak, knowing how to when they give you a hot mic saying, I want this fight, I'm going to be the champ, give them a promo, give them something to cut, give them something to sell you, because the worst thing you do is get a hot mic and go, whatever the UFC wants, I'm here to get a paycheck.
No good.
What does that do to your brand? It's like you just took a commercial away when you had a commercial opportunity.
Correct.
And so fighters are keen to it now. They know these opportunities are coming. They're jumping on these opportunities. They're starting their own businesses. They're making more. Fighter pays, it is going up. I know fighter pay will always be a discussion and argument. But I'm seeing a lot of guys that, they win 2 fights in a row by knockout. Boom, contract renegotiation.
Always.
They're jumping up 2 or 3. The days of like starting at 10-10, 12-12. Tony Ferguson, he fought 10 times in a row, like played out his contracts. And these in the Ultimate Fighter guys, they would win the Ultimate Fighter. They'd be locked into a 10-fight contract. I remember the guy that the magician, John Dodson.
Oh, John,
he was fighting for the belt years ago, and he was still making like 20-20 because he was in a 10-fight contract where he would win 12-12, win 14-14 or 15-15. But now, like, I know guys that got into the UFC at 10-10, got a knockout or 2, and now they're making like 70-70. So you're seeing guys get paid more, their value. It's slow, but it's coming.
Yeah.
Do you think it's time for the dreaded union word to step in?
Yeah, I don't know, man. It's funny. I talked to not to like shout out another show, but
you can shout out. You can shout out whatever you want on our. You can shout it. We're not looking for press passes from any organization in the world, so it don't matter to us.
John McCartney and Josh Thompson do.
Podcast. Yeah.
And I spoke to them a little while back, but they kept bringing up like the unions and the meetings, because John is like kind of one of the leaders on this stuff, right? And I told him, I said, look, I'm all about it, but I don't have any knowledge to give about it, because you are the guy. Like, John's the guy that goes and attends these meetings and works with the commissions on different on the evolution of the rules and the evolution of fighter, all these things where like fighters like me, I just like, I'm happy about it if it happens, but I don't have any knowledge on it to
how to produce it. How to produce it, how to produce a union, right? And we all know what would have to happen. You need the top 5 guys in the UFC to say, we're not going to fight anymore. And that's what they need to do. But the problem with that is those guys are actually making real money. The Connors and all the John Joneses. If they all said at one time, the top 5 guys said, I'm not fighting anymore. And an NFL agent came over and said, we're going to start a union. It's not going to come from MMA. It's going to come from the NFL. And that's how it works, guys. Listen, when people were calling me, when I stopped in MMA, they wanted me to, first of all, they wanted me to start a union. I'm like, absolutely not, because the UFC, whatever they were doing, if I could get away with what they were doing, I would do the same thing. So I'd be hypocritical by doing that, right? But at the same time, as a fighter, I see the plight, and I see that there has to become because NBA has it, NHL has it, NFL has it, and now it's time for MMA to have it too as well. Because yes, you're right. There is guys making 10-10 or 12-12, but there's a lot of guys that fought 20, 30 times in UFC right now. And we've had other guys on the show that said, hey, they know this guy, and literally he's working at Walmart now. And I'm not saying there's anything wrong with working at Walmart. I am saying, though, if you fought 25 times in the UFC and you're working at Walmart now, there's a problem with that.
Yeah. And because you should be able to at least be able to have some type of retirement. Correct. If you put that type of investment into your fight career. That's right. You know, that immediately when you said that, what came to my mind is my conversation with my wife when I told her I wanted to be a fighter, and I said I want to be in the UFC, and I said, but I want to be in the UFC and I want to be successful. I don't want to be like when you go to Thailand and you go hit mitts. You go to Thailand and they're like, you're about to the pad holder that's about to hold for you is a 7-time Lumpini champion.
I know.
And I'm like, oh, but he still lives at the gym with his kid, and he fights chickens on the weekends, and he holds pads for foreigners all day long. And it makes me sad. It makes me sad. I go, these guys are worshipped by Muay Thai purists, but they come and foreigners just give them $5 tips to hold pads all day.
And so they have no clue. They have no clue.
Is that success? Because to me, success is all around. It's having wins underneath your belt, but also having financial stability, and the name recognition, and all those things that come with it. I wouldn't want it to just be one or the other. You know, like you can win all you want, but if you still have to go work at Walmart at the end of the day, was it a successful career? And so from the get-go, I need to be successful. I need to make this, chase my dreams, have passion, fulfill my soul from fighting, but I got to make money, and I want to be successful at it. And so it's such a tough sport to have the entirety of all those things that I'm talking about.
But it's happening now, though, because 5, 6, 7, 8, 10 years ago, guys almost felt guilty to make money doing MMA. Like, why do you feel guilty? Like, the best plumber in the world makes $400,000, $500,000, $600,000 a year. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
The best electrician in the world makes $1 million a year. And when I saw fighters talk like that, I'm like, guys, do you not understand? It was so great when I retired from owning an MMA organization, because I could then talk freely. Freely. And when I was able to talk freely to explain to them that, guys, you should never feel guilty being rewarded as an artist making money. It makes no sense. If you're really good at your craft, you should be paid for it. End of story.
Yeah.
End of story.
And to add to that, if you're making really good money, that means that the other people probably made really good money too.
Correct.
The promotion and everything.
Correct.
That's true. Correct. Everybody wins then. What is it about combat sports that you kind of alluded to it a little bit, that there's something beautiful about it almost that draws you in, versus like your initial thing of soccer, because you liked soccer before? So what's the thing going on in your brain that draws you to it?
It's a violent ballet.
A violent ballet.
It's a violent ballet.
I love that.
And he would get all deep with these type of analogies and whatnot, but yeah, like my favorite type of MMA fight is like something that's so violent but so good, but it's so beautiful that like I'll give you a fight. Dustin Poirier versus Dan Hooker a couple months ago in quarantine. Violent as hell, but so, I mean, it was like who's gonna die first, and neither one of them wanted to die. But at a high level, it was a high level brawl, and they were taking shots and eating shots and not giving up, and the bell would ring and they would snarl at one another. They'd go back to the corner and they would say, this is what I do. And I'm just like, this is fucking, like, this is as raw as it gets. This is the highest level. Because it's one thing when there's two berserkos that have no technique. But when you have the highest level,
yeah,
of
totally,
and you've got the highest level of like guts, and you see 5 rounds of that, I'm like, this is just beautiful.
Guys,
I mean, like,
Nick
they
Diaz,
painted the canvas with blood.
Guys, Nick Diaz, Robbie Lawler. Do you remember that?
Yes.
Like that was that was bananas, man. I saw it the other day, and it came on TV again. I've only saw it 500 times, and I was watching it like there was going to be a different outcome again this time, but there never is. But it's like you punch me, but I don't care. I have the fear of losing is not in my mind. The fear of pain is no longer in my mind. It's now you're trying to take my soul and I'm trying to take your soul. That's a whole different mindset when you're fighting. And when you see two guys click in like that, it's like, oh my God. It's like you said, what did you say? It was a ballet, like a violent ballet.
A violent
ballet. I'm hashtagging that. I'm hashtagging that today. Violent by you. But that has to be.
There's a fight coming up that I don't know if it's going to be as guts and blood like the Poirier Hooker fight, but TJ Dillashaw is coming back, and he's fighting God dang, I'm blanking on his name. He had just knocked out Frankie Edgar with a flying knee.
Yeah.
And anyway, that guy moves. There's certain people that move a certain way, and the guy that I'm blanking on his name, he moves a certain way, and TJ Dillashaw has this beautiful movement. And that fight, I was supposed to do the desk on it a couple months ago, and it got pushed back. But I'm so excited to see those type of fights. Two guys that it's just they're gonna go in there and just show you some shit you've never seen before.
What do you think about Israel and like his style in that? Is that another one that's like another level?
It's another level of technique. Well, you know what? I take this back because Izzy's kind of hit or miss. Like I was about to say, I don't see the blood and guts in his fights, but he also had fight of the year against Kelvin Gastelum, and that was a blood and guts. That was him going back to the corner saying, I'm prepared to die in this cage. And so those are the moments that I live for as a fan. But then you'll see a couple fights after that where he's just kind of very technically savvy and stays out of danger. But no, he's definitely, as a technician, one of my favorite fighters, and as a swagger, one of the highest.
But the name we're looking for is Corey Sandhagen. Corey Sandhagen.
Thank you, Sandhagen.
Yeah.
Corey Sandhagen. Since I first saw him fight, certain guys move a certain way. And they kind of glide. They glide over. And it looks so effortless. Like when they slip and they switch stances and they move it, I'm like, I wish I could have moved like that. I couldn't move like that. I was much more of like a sniper brawler, but he's got a flowness to him, and so does TJ Dillashaw. And so when you put those two type of styles together, man, I'm telling you, we're gonna see a violent ballet that night. It's gonna be some beautiful shit. I can't wait for it.
That's gonna be, after someone watching this episode, they're gonna start a clothes brand called Violent Ballet. That's we're gonna, and I want Alan to be on record here so everybody knows the date and everything, because that's coming out, and guaranteed so many things have came out of this show before, and that's gonna come out because everybody's writing that down right now. Hashtag Violent Ballet.
Hell yeah.
Well, there is, and Mark's talked about this so many times about the fighters that just are like straight in and straight out, but there's the ones that actually, move the angles, shift around, and they're a different level. It is that next tier, which I feel that MMA's, in hockey here in Canada, hockey's been around and we have. If you can't skate by 3, you're not going to play in the NHL.
You're finished.
That's how it is. Like you have to start playing by 3 years old.
You're done.
We really haven't seen that gear up in MMA yet, like where kids are in jiu-jitsu at 3 years old and learning to roll and growing that whole time yet. But it's coming. There's a 6-year-old out there right now that is going to be the next absolute murderer in the UFC. But
so you know what I feel? I think that's such an interesting topic, and I've dabbled in this same topic a couple times. I've thought about it, and because I used to YouTube kid prodigies, and you could look up.
They're gone
right now on YouTube. If you guys are watching this show, look up like 5-year-old boxer, and you're gonna see a kid that looks like Floyd Mayweather hit pads like you've never seen a kid hit before. And this was 10 years ago. I used to do this. And where are those kids now? We don't see them. We're not hearing about them. And so what I feel is combat sports is such a separate entity, because you could play team sports and other sports. You have to start at a young age, like hockey and like soccer and some of these other ones. combat sports, I feel like sometimes people start too early and they get burnt out.
Of course.
Interesting,
or they get injured or something happens and it's just not there. The longevity's not there when you start too early. People used to always ask me, when did you start? And I didn't walk into a gym proper training until I was about 24, 25.
Wow.
And then I made it to the UFC when I was I was like 33, 32 when I made it to the UFC.
Super late.
And now I'm fighting, I was fighting 20, 23-year-olds when I'm 39. And so they are getting younger. But I feel like, just like when you see Greg Hardy, the ex-football player, who has gotten much, much better. At first, he was kind of an athletic hard hitter.
Yeah.
Now he's much more of a technical striker. But for somebody like him to have an NFL career and then to just say, I'm going to start MMA, and in 3 years' time to make it to the UFC and have a successful career, fighting is so different because it's not props. In basketball, there's a skill set with a prop. There's a ball.
I told it.
In hockey, etc., etc. In fighting, anything can happen. Anything can happen with grappling and just like up close fighting. That anything can always land. So even if you're a technician and you've been boxing since you were 3 years old, you can still get caught with a punch.
Correct.
But there's no way that I'm gonna go a 1 year basketball player and beat LeBron James in a one-on-one.
Not gonna happen.
I'm not gonna pick up hockey in 2 or 3 years' time and take on the best hockey player. But in fighting, there's no safe zone. So you can pick up fighting in 3 years and compete with some of the highest level guys if you're really, really good and you get kind of lucky. But it's possible. Where in other sports, it's impossible.
Okay, Alan, I'm going to ask you this question then, because I've been asked it a million times, and I want to know your answer. If your son says to you, Dad, I like this soccer thing, but I want to become an MMA fighter. Now, this is now wait a second. It sounds really cool. I know everybody says, oh, it's really cool. My dad was a fighter. And you know what happened because you were injured. You had all these things happen to you. And your son says, Dad, I want to do jiu-jitsu. No problem. He does that at 7, 8, 9 years old. Now, all of a sudden at 10, 11, 12, he has to go into a boxing gym. Okay. And then he got to go into a kickboxing gym and a Muay Thai club. And then he says to you, Dad, I want to do a fight. What's your answer?
Man. See, like I'm torn on it.
Yeah, of course.
Because the realistic side of me says, why not let him do a fight? It'd be great. Matter of fact, everybody in the world should at least do like one smoker, or at least put on some headgear and spar, so you know what it's like to face some adversity and get hit and hit back. And so the logical side of me would say, well, yeah, let him do a smoker. The dad side of me goes, that's how I got hooked. That's how I got hooked. I did a smoker, won that fight, and I could not stop. And I always said, I named my son Cage. He's obviously got to know how to fight. And so
he has no choice.
And so I teach him, and he knows how to fight. But I don't want him to go through the highs and lows. And that's just something that every parent has in them. Yeah, you want him to be in a good school. You want him to be in a good this and that. So I don't know. But I know if he came up to me and goes, I want to fight. Yeah, there would be something inside me that goes, oh, really? Because I got so much shit I could show you that you're going to love. You know what I mean? So that part of me would get excited 100%.
What about your wife, though?
Yeah, she would be totally against it. But it's weird, too. Like, when I started fighting, my entire family was completely against it. And they would try to talk me out of it. And I would always tell them, I go, I'm telling you, I can be successful. I'm telling you, I know it. And they were like, it's barbaric. They were still in that mindset. And then fast forward years later, I'm in the UFC. They call me for tickets every fight, and they became fans. But like anything in life, when you have no knowledge or experience about it, then it's scary. The unknown is scary, and this was unknown. This is barbaric. Then you learn about it, and they're like, okay, like Alan took some damage in this fight, but he's okay, and this and that. So my family grew into it. They were happy when I retired, but grew into it. I don't know what would happen though if my son asked me. I know I would get a little giddy inside, but I know I wouldn't want that to be his career choice for sure.
Interesting. Yeah.
Well, Alan, I mean, obviously, your career. I think you're super inspiring, just personally, because you've thought about these things. You can tell, all the things that we've talked about today. So I really hope that the commentating thing really takes off for you and they put you on the desk, because I think you got not only the knowledge but the character to back up the talk, which I really like. I really like that, because that's something that I really get drawn to, because I can tell when people are talking, they're like, no, there's life experience here, there's adversity and overcoming here that this guy knows about, and that to me is really good. So I hope that takes off for you too. But also, I really want to thank you for joining us, because it's awesome to hear from someone like you, because there's people watch that get inspired by your story, and it's a really cool one, and from modeling to punching people in the face to getting a microphone. I mean, it is awesome, and then learning all the things that we didn't even talk about, your family and stuff, but all that in there as well is really cool. So we want to thank you so much for joining us on the show and spending some time, even when your kids practicing soccer right now.
My pleasure, man. I appreciate it. It was actually a really good conversation. I hope the other parents aren't looking at me like I'm crazy, but yeah, I enjoyed it.
Well, that's okay.
They should know who you are.
Yes. Thanks so much. Thanks so much, Alan. Thank you so much.
Thank you, guys. Y'all take care.
All right. Thanks again.
Well, that was great. That was fantastic.
Cool guy.
Yeah. Yes.
I again, find some cool guys. But again, like, I think that the education of MMA is really starting to grow with people like him and Dan Hardy, Rob Black, where, they're the days of like barbaric or whatever, like you said, but no, there's a beauty actually
but don't you think
this.
But isn't there a sticking point, Jesse? Because yes, you want your child to learn how to defend himself. Yes, you want your child, and then you get to a certain point. I think there's a certain age cutoff, because with my son Dave, there was a point where we could have put him in another direction to be a professional MMA. There's no question Dave Pavelich could have been a professional MMA fighter. My wife literally was crying. She said, "Mark, no. Do not let him." I said, "No, you have to understand something. He has a talent. Like, he has this, like, he can roll with guys in the UFC and do well. He can spar with
in all honesty, though, and here's my opinion about that. I get that, but is it any worse on your body than any other sport?
No, I think you're right. I think you hear basketball, ACL this, ACL that, hockey,
football
ACL,
concussion, hockey concussion, neck, knees, back. And so I think, a longevity of that, if you're gonna go down that road and play a professional sport, you're selling your body,
correct,
to play that sport. Essentially, is what it is. You're trading your health for that. And again, I get it. I do get why, especially fighting, seems so much worse, because it is direct contact with one another. But you'll watch a rugby game, or a lacrosse game,
I love it,
and you're like, well, what the heck? That's incredibly violent, and it is. You're doing that your whole life.
Yes.
So I think that there is a bit of a stigma still, 100%. There's a stigma still around fighting, because it's fighting, and you're not supposed to fight. So
that's right.
So that, I get that part, but I do like his answer too, where it's like, hey, if that happens, then that happens, and
you're right.
Then you go for it. But I get both sides. I mean, if one of my kids wanted to, I would be jacked.
Oh, really?
Oh yeah, I'd be excited.
You got 5 boys, right? Yeah. So I know the one boy that you have would be like, already he would be like, I seen him, and I've always told you, like, he can be a huge MMA star. He's good looking, he's tough as shit, and all he does is have to learn the craft, and he would be.
He doesn't want to hurt anybody.
He doesn't want to hurt anyone. Yeah, that's the problem.
Yeah, you need to want to hurt somebody.
Yes, it's not. Yes, you have to. Unfortunately, this is you're in the hurt business, right? So this is it. But hey, did you see hot off the press just before the show even started today?
What?
That's our guest last week, Cyril Gane, won his fight in the UFC over the weekend. C'est très bon. And what happened is now, because Francis Ngannou is kind of injured, or he's not ready for the fight.
Yeah.
The UFC just announced that Cyril Gane will be fighting Derek Lewis for the interim. I know we hate interim titles.
I hate it so much.
But for an interim title against Cyril Gane. So
that's awesome.
in August. So for Cyril, that's fantastic.
Yeah, because he gets another fight right away. And...
Well, he goes big fight. He goes. Me and Jesse podcast. He goes to fight in the main event of that fight card, and now he's fighting. Now he's fighting Derek Lewis in August. I don't know if he's the main event or not, but his name is getting like cycled in.
Which one is that? That's not Connor's card.
No, Connor's card is in 10 days.
Oh,
so
right.
it's an August card. I think it is a numbered show, but it's great to see Cyril getting that opportunity because he's a great guy. Me personally, I think, if I could give any advice to anybody today would be for him to cut down to 205 because I don't think he has knockout power at heavyweight. Like, I just don't think he
goes lightweight.
Yeah, go light heavy, right?
I
don't think he has knockout power at heavyweight because he had Volkov, he fought Tanner Boser, he's fought all these guys, and he hasn't knocked them out. So,
but do you need to?
Yeah, you do.
Because now, wouldn't it be interesting if the guy that had like the most gas could dance around these guys?
Yeah, but the problem with that is you have Francis Ngannou, who can you dance away from him for 5 rounds? I don't think so. He'll touch you. He will touch you.
Yeah, he's going to touch you.
When he touches you, go to sleep, right?
But it doesn't mean he's not. He can't take. I mean, obviously, if it really connects, he connects, and anyone's going down. But but it doesn't mean he can't get it. So you say that anyone that beats Francis has to knock him out, essentially?
Oh,
well, no, because
or submit him, right?
Well, I mean, yeah, his gas
Stipe,
definitely got better.
Stipe, listen, I'm Croatian, and Stipe doesn't beat Ngannou again. Okay, so I'm letting everybody know that that's not going to happen. Like, there's a certain expiration that comes with MMA fighters. Stipe has expired, so no offense, people can all send me hate mail. Go ahead, I don't care. Just like today, Ante Ribic, who plays for Croatia, I want everybody to know if it was up to me, I would take away his Croatian passport. That's how bad he played. So Ante Ribic, he was a disgrace on the field. There was a few other guys from Croatia that deserved to have their passports taken away because the rest of the team played fantastic with heart and dedication, like all Croatian soccer teams. But Ante Rebic is a disgrace, and I would take his Croatian passport away. I wanted to say that on the show today. I want that on record that I said that. And don't forget, do you know what else today? Here's a little trivia for people watching the show. It was 24 years ago today that Mike Tyson bit Evander Holyfield's ear in the rematch. Yeah. Can you imagine? I remember that like yesterday. That was 24 years ago today.
That was an incredible time.
Crazy.
And I mean,
crazy.
The explosion of media that took place after that was incredible. That was
incredible.
Amazing. It was amazing.
That was nuts. I mean,
nobody would remember that fight otherwise.
Probably not. No.
I mean, people would remember, but not like now.
No, not. We wouldn't call a 24-year anniversary of it today if he didn't bite his ear.
Yeah.
And literally
he did us a favor.
Oh, I think so too. I mean, and the great Evander Holyfield, I met him at the Super Bowl when I was there, Super Bowl 50.
Well, you met Mike too.
I did. Yeah, we all did. We all met Mike, right? He was a great guy. So me, you, and TJ and Eddie.
I just hope he doesn't do another fight now.
Me too. It's not necessary. No. But the way this money's coming,
I mean, I guess I do want him to make his money back because so many people screwed him out of it.
Gouged him. Yeah.
Well, it's hard to. You can only throw so many $500,000 parties.
It's so true. And let's not forget too. I do believe everybody next week's show will be having former Raider and Tampa Bay Buccaneer, but I'd like to say former Raider, the big man himself, Donald Penn, on the show. It's pretty confirmed. So I've never said that before in my life. It's pretty confirmed, but it's pretty confirmed that Donald Penn will be on the show next week. So.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah, very cool.
Really cool.
Yeah.
Even though he played for the Raiders.
Well, he played for the Bucs, but Donald Penn's a good guy, and there's a video out there. I want someone to watch. I was telling my wife about this the other day, and when Donald Penn was driving in his Bentley, I think it was a Bentley or Rolls, and he was driving out of the arena, a stadium, and some guy shot his mouth off to him, right? And Donald Penn got out of his vehicle at 280 pounds, okay? And he was so mad because this guy he's all heart, okay? Donald Penn's all heart. Anybody want to say anything different, please message me and tell me I'm full of shit, but it's not true. Donald Penn's all heart, okay? And he played a great career. He's in his retirement mode now. He just retired this year. And he got out of his car to actually confront a fan. It was hilarious. And when he got out of the car, the fan looks like he literally defecated in his pants.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because when Donald Penn gets out of his ride, you're like, oh shit! I thought it was just going to keep
coming to attack me.
Oh yeah, it was hilarious video. I saw it, and I've been messaging Donald for a while now to be on the show, and I believe he has confirmed.
Well,
so,
that's good news.
Yeah, so he'll be on the show next week. And let's not forget our fantastic sponsors at Crystal Glass. Crystal Glass for all your glass needs, 310 Glass, crystalglass.ca. Been in the business for over 70 years, everybody. So we encourage you to use Crystal Glass for all your glass needs.
Absolutely. Well, everybody, another week.
Yes.
Sad day for me and Mark, but
sad.
Very sad. Ugh. It's from elation to crushing defeat.
Yeah. Soccer's done for us for this year.
Yep.
I could care less who wins now. Care less.
I just don't want Germany to win.
I don't think so.
I hope not.
But I don't want England to win either. So there you go. So here we go. We go down this road of
Switzerland. Let's go for Switzerland.
Hey, it would only be the logical choice. That, we're not going to hurt anybody's feelings if we go for Switzerland, so.
Well, that right over there is Mark Pavelich. I'm Jesse Martineau. This has been the Me and Jesse podcast, the most important and exciting 60 minutes you spent on the internet this week. Thank you so much, Alan, for joining us tonight.
Great guest.
Yeah, awesome guest again. And hey, next week, maybe you got Donald Penn coming in. So.
I do believe so.
Stay tuned. Me and Jesse podcast every Monday night, 5 p.m. Mountain Standard Time. YouTube.com/Me and Jesse. Facebook.com/Me and Jesse. Make sure you subscribe and like on those channels. We'll see you next time on the Me and Jesse podcast.
Thanks for watching the Me and Jesse podcast. Follow us at Facebook.com/Me and Jesse.